right, good afternoon, folks, and happy President's Day. It's currently Monday, February 15th, and we're actually closed today for the 3-day weekend. 2 holidays back to back, but we're not going to take the day off here. We're going to go over some of these stock charts going into the upcoming week, and on top of that, a cryptocurrency. Okay, so whether you're a day trader or swing trader, we'll highlight some targets to look at for these momentum stocks. And on top of that, if you are not subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe and like the video. And if you want, try out the free weekend chat. We've had a lot of people pouring in from YouTube trying to learn about these charts and actually take some trade setups. If you're interested, tradewithtex.com, give it a try. Okay, but we're going to kick it off with the Nasdaq here. First and foremost, we had another green week, right? This is the weekly chart that we're looking at. So each one of these candles represents 1 week. As you can see, it wasn't really much to follow up that crazy week from just 2 candles ago, right? But still, green is good. We hit a new all-time high. Okay. Now, one thing I wanted to point out before we look at the actual futures ticker, and before we get into Bitcoin as well right after this, is that the markets are pretty overextended, but the trend is intact. So it's kind of a contradictory mention here, because normally if you say something's overbought or overextended, it's bearish. But only thing I'll say with regards to the trend is that this 8 EMA right here, right, the further we are away from it, the higher risk there is of a larger pullback. Okay, so while I don't think that's the case at this exact moment, that is something to be a little bit, more conservative with, right? If you have a loser, make sure you're cutting it at that risk. Okay, so trend is a little bit overextended, but it is still bullish, clearly. If we look at the actual Nasdaq chart, I'll show you guys what I'm looking at going into the upcoming week. It's a short week, so I'm not expecting anything crazy. Really what we want to do is we want to stay above this previous high. Okay, this previous high right here. So that's at 13,820.75. A little side note, there is a ton of support on the way down now. So this is kind of the only highlight, and makes me a little bit more comfortable when we looked at that weekly chart and we saw that the trend was a little bit overbought. Makes me a little comfortable knowing that we have support here, here, and all the way down here. Obviously we have one more level, but this is a big support level down here in the 13,500s. Okay, so if you want, you can pause the video, see these levels and add them to your chart, but we're mainly going to focus on the ones that are actually close by, because we could easily leave these all in the dust, right? So we did break back out over this area here, 13,743. All right, moved up substantially last week, right? Not a ton, but moved up, and ended up moving all the way up into the 13,800s. Now, to me, this is a pretty good thing, because we've had this target for about a week and a half of 13,853, and we haven't been able to hit it. Finally, we have hit that, so we can start looking at the next target area overhead. Okay, so as long as we stay above this zone right here, that guy, okay, then we have room up here, 13,987, basically 14K, right? But there's a whole lot of air. There's not too much resistance on the way up. It's just something to be aware of. Okay, so 13,986. So just to kind of keep this as simple as possible, basically, decent amount of support below. Nasdaq needs to hold above 13,820.75. If that's the case, that's the next target area up here. Okay, nice and simple. Now, moving on, we're actually going to change gears completely and talk a little bit about Bitcoin. Okay, now, regardless of how you trade Bitcoin or cryptos, whether you trade options on blockchain stocks or the blockchain stocks themselves, whether you trade Bitcoin futures or just the standard fund of GBTC, which tracks Bitcoin, right? This is usually what I trade. Regardless of how you trade it, I'm just going to map out a couple of different time frames, what we're looking for, and really why we've been watching this. And that main reasoning is there's a lot of momentum here. Okay, there's momentum, there's relative volume, and even if you don't drink the crypto Kool-Aid and think that this is going to 1 million, you can still make some money on it. Okay, now for Bitcoin specifically, we got a breakout recently over 42,730, which was on the Tesla headline of them buying 1.5 billion in Bitcoin. But frankly, this is something we were already looking for, right? We went long right here after we had defended support for a second time. And then Bitcoin ended up breaking out over 42,730. Now, that's the first thing that you have to be aware of, that we do have a range extension, right? Another breakout. And we already did hit the first big target area, actually the first two big target areas. I've deleted them now. And it is worth noting that still Bitcoin is having a little bit of trouble holding these high 48,000s, okay? Specifically, there are two levels here that are holding us down, 48,885 and 49,500. Now, our next target was up here at 49,875, so it's very, very close to this resistance level up here. But just to kind of put it simply, I want to take it to the 4-hour time frame. Now, I know for you guys, switching up time frames can be pretty confusing. Just to kind of show you, I mainly look at the daily and the weekly chart for the big picture, right? Larger time frame equals a larger move. That's why we review these on the weekend instead of, the 15-minute or the 30-minute. But the 4-hour has its benefits. We're not going to go into all of that in depth. And I'll show you why exactly this is giving me a good look for Bitcoin moving forward. Now, obviously we've broken out, right? Anybody with two eyes and half a brain can see that. Recently, we've seen a decent sized pullback, as you can see, to the 20 EMA here. Okay, actually, I think this is the SMA. Let me load up my full study set. Okay, to the 20 EMA, and clearly this formed a higher swing low, basically meaning that the trend is going to continue. Now, recently we're kind of struggling with these two levels. You can see 48,885, we talked about that one, and 49,500. But if we're able to clear this little resistance zone after another higher swing low, so that's higher swing low again, then this thing's easily going to pop up to the next overhead target of 51,561. Okay, that seems like a pretty particular number. Again, we're using Fibonacci extensions here, so it's a little bit more advanced, but that would be the next target area above. Now, if you guys are like me and you think, wow, this is a pretty narrow-minded way of looking at it because it's a bigger breakout, I agree. This is the short-term target, okay? But long-term target, so if you want to look at the short-term targets, again, just pause this, write them down, add them to your chart. We're looking at the Bitcoin futures ticker in Thinkorswim, okay? Long-term target for me is still 70K. I think I said that in one of the recent videos. Again, I'm not, a crypto fiend, and I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid. Just based off of technicals, that's what this most recent breakout signaled, right? If we got back above this high, then 70K would be the next target, okay? So short-term, looking for the 51,500 area. We just got to break above 48,885 and actually stay up there, okay? And again, I don't care how you play Bitcoin. I mainly play it with GBTC. I want to leave it at that. Okay, been holding this one since the 33s on the re-entry right here. Okay, now moving forward, I wanted to talk about a couple of momentum stocks. So we covered the Nasdaq, which is just basic market outlook. We covered a crypto, biggest one out there. I wanted to talk about these three momentum stocks, and we are going to go over an earnings play at the end. But just to kind of show you, we're going to go over three momentum stocks and then two potential breakout plays at the end. So Peloton, before we even pull it up, I want to tell you, Peloton had strong earnings. So all of these tickers that we're about to go over, you can easily get biased on. You can love them or hate them. We just trade them, okay? Peloton had strong earnings and is crossing over a key moving average, all right? So very, very strong earnings, and this one is trying to build a base for a move higher, okay? So I'm going to put ER for earnings. BNGO is just a standard breakout play, B/O, not body odor, commonly mistaken. Tilray ran up big time. This is one of the pot stocks, and then dumped down without having any type of a bounce. So on these two, Peloton and BNGO, I'm looking for breakouts and continuations. On Tilray, I'm just looking for a dead cat bounce, which is just basically a little bounce back up into resistance, but that little amount, since it's had such a crazy range, is more than enough to make money on. Okay, so these guys were looking for bigger moves. For Tilray, we're just looking for range. Okay. Now for Peloton, to show you the chart, and we'll breeze through these. This is where it gets a lot easier. Peloton recently tried to pop up out of this really tight range. So it's been ranging between this area basically since earnings. That's kind of poorly drawn. It tried to pop out of it last time and then immediately just gave it back on the actual report. This is the first pop since the earnings report, right? That wasn't just with market strength. It was with relative volume and a buy signal, okay? So based off the daily chart alone, Peloton is indicating a move into the low 160s, okay? I want to say that right off the bat because looking at this chart, there's resistance here, 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 and here. But to keep it simple, we're looking for a move into this zone. This is just short-term resistance we have to be mindful of, okay? On top of all that, guys, let's say that it doesn't break out. There is a ton of support, and it's been able to really show healthy action in this support zone and above it. So if you look at this, Peloton ran up, and the basics of stock trading, right, is that we form a demand zone and a supply zone, right? The supply is the sell pressure. That's clearly up here in the low 160s. And then the demand zone is buying pressure, which is very evidently below 150. Okay, basically 139 to 150, everybody's buying this stock up. Now, the reason why we're watching it is because it's crossing over the 20 EMA, okay? And everything's kind of shifting to the upside. So basically, if Peloton stays above 150.5, then we have targets of 157.83 and 160.77. Those are the two first targets. These are very modest because if it breaks through that, right, we basically have room all the way up to the high and then blue skies. Okay, so smaller target here just so you can trim some, and then the big target is right here into the 162s. Okay, 161, 162 roughly. All right, so Peloton, that's about 6-7 points of upside, but keep tabs on this one because, again, it showed very healthy action right down here. Kind of built a little volume shelf for a move up. Okay, so again, 157 and 160.7 are the first targets there for Peloton. All right, BNGO. Nice looking chart. This is just one of the small caps that's, yes, overextended, but gives us a lot of opportunity. It had this ridiculous run up out of the sub 1 area. This is the same ticker that we called out at 92 cents, right? Not bragging, just to remind you guys, those of you that are in the chat, this is the same BNGO, right? There are a lot of tickers that look similar to that. This is the same one. So it made a big run up to about $6-7, stayed there for a while, and now it has doubled that move, okay? And BNGO, wouldn't you know, is trying to break out again. So on Friday, it broke out over 1270. Big historical resistance right here. And then immediately flew through the next resistance zone. I was kind of surprised because it was a slower day on Friday. But it flew above the next resistance zone and then ended up closing below it. So it's a pretty simple mention. As long as it stays above 1270, it stays on the watch list. But if it can take out 1385, then we got room all the way up to 15 and 16.2. Okay, so 1270 keeps it on the watch list just so we don't waste time watching this if it gives back the move. Okay, this is going to be the key break, 1385. Targets are 15 flat and 16.2. All right, smaller ticker for those of you that are feeling a little bit more risky. And speaking of risky, Tilray, pot stocks had a crazy run up. We're not going to go over this entire run up. Just because I think it would be a waste of time. You can recap this chart all you want, but bottom line is Tilray has a ton of support down in the mid 20s, specifically 26.49 and 27.13. I'm watching that area closely for a bounce back into the low 30s. Okay, that doesn't sound that appealing. That's a 20 to 30% bounce back. Okay, so Tilray, there are two things that I want to play out, right? We kind of use this strategy, and I'm not going to give too much insight into it because it's a little secret strategy that we use in the chat. But if Tilray dips down and then reclaims Friday's low, specifically 28.21, look out for the bounce, okay, on a reclaim. If it keeps selling off but has a positive reaction to this Fibonacci retracement, look for the bounce, okay? And the most you want it to move before locking in some profits is the 8 EMA. All right, I know this all sounds a little bit more advanced, but I really don't want you guys going into the trading week without all of the firepower that we have, right? All of the text that we have. So 28.21 for a double bounce there, okay? If it can't hold that, this is the next leg to watch lower. And then the 8 EMA, this little pinkish purplish line, would be your first target. See how it did get an early morning bounce on Friday? It didn't hold that moving average, and it probably won't because the downtrend is so aggressive. Okay, that's the ideal way we want to play it out. Those are the levels below that you need to know, and again, this is where we would take profits. The only other thing you need to know is this. Out of the tickers reporting this week, this is probably one of the few I actually care about. Tilray does report on, what is it? I lost it. Oh, here it is. On Wednesday after the close, pretty much the most eventful day this week. And we trade all of these stocks regularly. So you can see I've outlined the ones that I'm interested in. Tilray reports Wednesday after the close, so we're probably going to see it try to bounce before then. Okay. Would really look at this Tuesday closely because that only leaves 1.5 trading days until this thing reports. Okay. These are some other ones that I'm interested in. This is a good transition away from it since you know the game plan for Tilray. Solar stock on Tuesday after the close. PLTR, we know that stock very well, right? It's just fun to trade. So I'm not looking for any crazy quarter. I'm sure the numbers will be solid, but just looking to trade that range. Shopify, great company. And then if we go down this list, you can see options. And pretty much all of these are momentum movers, especially this guy down here, SunPower. You can tell that solar stocks are reporting this week. One of them reported last week as well, ENPH. Solar stocks are high growth names. The only problem is that they ran up a lot. However, I think that SPWR and a couple of the other ones, even though they're pretty overextended still, have cooled off past few weeks, which means that earnings are going to be important here. They could result in a decent move, okay? So SPWR reports later in the week. This is one that I'll be looking at for earnings. It's not your standard, blue chip stock, but it has momentum. It has range. We're going to be looking at it. The key reclaim here for any type of decent move to the upside, 51.41. The only other level you have to really pay attention to is 52.81. So both of those pretty close by, but look for a breakout over this level right here to get things going. All right. Do not play this stock unless it confirms. This stock is a pain in the ass if you jump the gun. All right. We've learned that the hard way a couple of times with these solar names. The last ticker I'm going to mention for this video, so SPWR looking for a run up into earnings. CPSH is the last one. This is a much higher momentum stock than what we've gone over, believe it or not, right? We've talked about Bitcoin, Peloton, man, we are degenerates. BNGO and Tilray, this is a higher momentum stock than all of them because of the share structure. It's very, very volatile. It's kind of moving up with the other space plays, but CPSH basically is a Bowser Report stock that we've been trading for quite a while, and it is flagging and trying to break out of that flag again. Okay, so just a standard mover to watch. 24.45 and 26.20 are the key levels. Other than that, it's got blue skies. All right, I'd be surprised if this one held up really well, but I really could not get sleep tonight knowing I didn't mention it in this video because it's got so much momentum. Cannot lose track of it. Okay, so just to kind of simplify on this President's Day recap video and some opportunity moving forward, Nasdaq Trend is intact, even though it's a little overextended, just provided the targets for that one, okay? Bitcoin, I don't care how you trade it. I trade it with GBTC. I'm looking for another leg up, okay? Peloton has a really healthy chart. Even if it pulled back, I would still be watching it long, okay? BNGO and Tilray are the other two momentum stocks I'm looking at closely. I know I mentioned a lot of tickers. You can't watch them all. You shouldn't watch them all. Just zero in on 1 to 3 and keep it at that. Okay? That's what I'm going to do come Tuesday morning. Now, last mention here, guys, I hope you have a relaxing 3-day weekend. I hope you have a good night. But if you want to try out the free week trial, you still have time to sign up. All right? It's only 4 days now because of the short week, but I think it'll be worth it. All right. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you all tomorrow in chat. All right. Take care, folks. Have a good trading week.